Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out True Off My Chest. Story 1. I found condoms and hair ties in my boyfriend's bathroom. He lives alone. If it were me 10 years ago I would have gone nuclear. But I'm old and tired, so I just left a bottle of lube and bobby clips and I'll let her have that fight with him. I'm going home to my dogs. That is all. Story 2. I feel like my father took precious moments away from me when my grandma died. I will resent him for the rest of my life. I will probably delete this soon because I am paranoid about people I know connecting the dots that this is me. I'm just paranoid. Sorry this is so long. I am in my 30s. I am an only child and was raised by my mum. My father was never around as a kid. He was an alcoholic and never had a stable life. Never had stable housing, a stable mode of transportation, stable job, etc. I would hear from him for a bit and then he would disappear. He was, by all accounts, a shitty and absent father. 3 years ago, my dad got sober. He and I have talked and we have spent a bit of time together. It is honestly usually pretty awkward. We don't really know each other, so it's like hanging out with a stranger, except we have shared family members. He mainly just talked about his AA program. He never asks how I'm doing or what my interests are. I don't enjoy spending time with him. But I am proud at the work he has done to become sober and wanted to be supportive of him and attempt to have a relationship. My father's mom, my grandma, was a big part of my life. She has always been there for me. I have dealt with issues in my life such as mental health, trauma, etc. So I was not always consistent in maintaining my relationships, but it never stopped my grandma from reaching out. The last 1 to 2 years have been a huge struggle for me. I have had really bad crippling depression and had some substance use issues that my family does not know about. This year, my grandma got sick. She has never been in the best health, but things started really declining. She lives 1.5 HRS away from me. My dad lives in the same city as I do. He does not drive and had no way of getting to from the hospital. My nana was in the hospital for a few months and I visited weekly. I always brought my dad with me. I hated the drive with him and how he would dominate every conversation talking about himself. All of my visits with my grandma were spent listening to him complain about his AA buddies, or his roommates, etc. I felt like I didn't get any quality time with my nana. Visits were always rushed. One day, I decided that I would tell my dad I wanted to have a solo visit with my grandma. And I did. It was beautiful. I was there for hours. I read to her and she napped on and off. She said she felt so happy I stayed there and was sitting there when she woke up. And then a few days later, she was gone. If I had more time solo with her, I would have apologized for being absent when things got tough for me. I would have apologized for ignoring her calls when I was depressed. I would have thanked her for always being my #1 supporter. My parents are not good parents, and she was the only person in my life that always rooted for me. I never got to tell her any of this. After she died, I didn't hear from my dad at all. After a few weeks, I messaged him. He went on about how he was doing okay but had issues with his roommates. He didn't ask if I was okay. I told him I felt hurt that he never checked in to see if I was okay. He told me that he didn't even think to ask. My own father never even had the thought to see if I was okay. That hurt me so bad. I feel like I sacrificed time with my grandma so he could be there. All of that, and then he doesn't even talk to me. The funeral was 2 months after the death. He didn't talk to me then, either. He waved at me. That was it. It's been several months and still nothing. I am so hurt. And I am angry. I was willing to put a lot of things aside to try to build a relationship. An entire childhood of abandonment, but this I won't get over. When I think of him, I feel so much rage and anger. The only person I could ever vent to about this was my grandma, and she is gone. It makes it hurt even more. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 3. Found out I am dating my cousin. About a half a year ago I met this guy on Tinder for a date and him and I immediately hit it off. We will call him Blake just for the sake of privacy and hopes for no one I know finding this. I had been in town for a work event and scrolled on Tinder and met this guy named Blake, and I had an incredible dinner. We found that we share a lot in common as our families are the same nationality. Grandparents both owned a construction company. He took me back to his place and we had sex. Near the end of the night as I was leaving I noticed a photograph that looked like my grandpa, and I mean spot on. I asked him about it but he said it was his grandpa but he was too young to remember him before he passed. I myself had the same situation as I was only 4 when he passed away but I remember seeing him in family photos. As I got older my parents removed the photos due to my mom and her adoptive parents getting upset over the photos being present in front of their grandkids. I kept thinking about it and eventually asked him to send me a photo of it. I showed my mom the photo and she was telling me how that was her biological father. My grandparents had legal troubles when my parents and their siblings were younger due to my grandma passing away and my grandfather being an alcoholic. The state ordered my mom and her brothers to be taken away from my grandpa and be placed in foster care. This was before the internet and my mom and her siblings were unable to contact each other and were spread across a few states. Blake and I have got a DNA test and it came back that we are cousins. I feel sick to my stomach knowing this and don't know what to do. TLDR, had sex with a stranger and found out we are related and don't know what to do. Story 4. I can never get close to a person without knowing at least some form of serious usable dirt on them. I don't know what's wrong with me. Well I mean I kinda do because I was groomed/sa as a child by a man I thought loved me, and then later in life when I got into my first adult relationship he ended up saying me too. I don't really trust too many people in life, and I do go to therapy for it but I find that the problem isn't identifying my issues, it's doing anything about it. I'm a pro at being self-aware and intellectualizing my feelings but can never truly feel them. I just don't ever want to be hurt again. That's why I always tend to hold my cards close to my chest with people, romantic or not, until they extend to me a show of trust first. I never actually ask anyone to give me dirt on them, I just can't open up myself unless they confided some deep-ass shit in me first. My brain just needs that mutually assured destruction if they ever betray me, that way I'm not so cripplingly anxious about them doing it. I never want to actually use someone's secrets and all-time lows on them, I just want people to FK and stop doing it to me, sad face. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 5. I've never had a crush before. I'm in my senior year of high school and I'm coming to the realization that I've never been attracted to anyone. Everyone in my life is grilling me, asking me questions about who I like, and I just don't have an answer. I do my best to interact with as many people as possible, but I've never felt a spark. It's gotten so bad that some of my friends are convinced that I'm gay, which I'm pretty sure I'm not. I've just never had a crush on anyone, man or woman. As everyone around me go on dates and fall in love, I just feel really insecure for not being able to live up to that expectation. Story 6. Just found out I'm pregnant. Just found out I'm pregnant with child number 2 and I'm really finding it hard to be excited or happy. Story 7. I left my husband update. I posted a while ago about leaving my husband, and figured I'd give a little update. I recently went back to the house with some friends to get more of me belongings. We walked in the door and were instantly hit with this smell. One of my friends compared it to how the room of a roommate of his in college smelled. Luke, who cleaned his toilet twice in the 2 years they lived there and pretty much was holed up in his room the whole time. It was bad, it was dirty, it was messy and the girl's stuff was all over the house too. I had told my husband I was coming and not to gather any of my items, I would do it myself, but he did anyway. I expressed how I did not appreciate him going against my wishes in doing so. He then got mad that I took my bookshelf, that was mine, from my childhood bedroom, saying that this was his house, he lives there, and I chose to leave. The house was bought together and has both of our names on it. He also said that he would fight me over me taking the giant beanbag that was a gift from my mother. I told him I would call my mother on it if I needed to, so he said go ahead. I dialed her up, put her on speaker, and explained what was going on. Of course her answer was, yeah, it was a gift from me. OP gets it. He is clearly living in some kind delusional and depressive state. Part of me feels bad for how terribly he is taking care of himself and his inability to help himself, but the truth is, he did this to himself. Story 8. What if he really was the love of my life? I, 28F, fell for a guy over a year ago. We met online and everything was cool up until he decided it wasn't, ca 3 months. NGL it hit hard because the explanation was not really there, but it was mainly about timing. The same thing happened this year. Same guy, almost the same time frame, but more personal contact, and because he reached out saying he couldn't get me out of his head, I actually thought it was gonna be different and more comfy. Well, it wasn't. This year's outcome was him being madly in love one day and saying he likes me other days. I decided to end it before it grew on me too much. I felt that my feelings, if articulated, pushed him away, whereas if I had problems with him he would be all over me. Clearly it wasn't exactly healthy, and I don't want to play these games in this age anymore. Truth is, I really did feel that this guy was the one for me. It's why I never felt the same before. Now I do not know how to move away from the thought of losing someone I thought would play a big role in my life. Story 9. I'm disappearing next weekend. Friday, 15th, is my birthday. I have never had a good birthday. The few childhood birthdays I can remember actually being celebrated were all ruined by my biological mother's drinking or drug abuse, or by my biological father showing up with yet another random woman. By the time I was adopted I was already done with the whole birthday thing, and my adopted parents respected that. All of the fun milestone birthdays were no better. My 18th was spent watching my BF do coke with his buddies all night. My thing is pot. The few others I've done mess with my head too much, so I got bored and went to bed. My 21st, my BF at the time convinced me to come out with him and his friends, and he got so drunk I ended up carrying him home the 7 blocks to our apartment while yelling at his equally drunk friends to follow me so they could sleep it off on my couches and didn't end up driving. Fast forward and this will be number 33. I am in the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. I'm in the best headspace I have ever been in, but I just don't want to celebrate my birthday. My boyfriend is getting frustrated because birthdays have always been a huge thing for him and his family growing up. Like, they go big. He keeps trying to plan giant extravagant outings for me. He's asked me how much I would like to spend on new outfit choices for the day. He's suggested only the most expensive and exclusive restaurants in our area for dinner. I've told him many times I don't want to buy new clothes for my birthday. I just want a quiet evening at home after my long day of work, and at most I wanna order pizza and binge some movies. He says it's ridiculous I plan on working on my birthday. He won't give in. Keeps saying he will convince me birthdays aren't all bad and he's going to make me love mine. I don't want to budge. So I've decided instead of continuing to argue with him I'm going to get myself a hotel room for the night. Order the biggest pizza I possibly can and watch all the stupid movies and trash TV I want. I'll of course let him know I'm not dying in a ditch somewhere and offer to have him join, but if he gets mad I'm not going to tell him where I am and I'm going to enjoy my birthday my way. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.